Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man Podcast. My name's Rory Paquette, and I know you know that, and you're probably tired of me introducing myself every episode. But folks, I'd just like to remind you and me how grateful I am to be sitting here. I don't get to do this for a living. I don't get to sit here and podcast as a job, unless you're out there doing your what you're doing. Folks, you have just lifted our podcast up over these last 6, 7 years. It's been amazing. We're about to hit episode 400 on this podcast alone, and I've done over 1,000 episodes with all of you tagging along and supporting us. You're amazing. You're amazing people. Folks, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Now, for those of you who've been here a while, you know what time it is, and it's time to take a sip of my preferred beverage. And this is my 11th interview today, so I'm going to probably drink a lot of this tonight during this show. So here we go. Oh my goodness, good stuff. Just brewed a whole new pot of this. Folks, you all know what we're drinking. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Look them up and check them out. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful. Just like my wife, because I am a blessed, very lucky man. Folks, they do all the right things for all the right reasons, and they support veterans, which we all know is a huge part of the Power Man podcast. If you're a veteran out there, I want to thank you and your family for what you've done. If you hadn't gone out and did what you did, I wouldn't be able to even speak anymore. I'd have been shut down a long time ago. So, folks, we love you, and we're glad you found a home here at the Power Man Podcast. Freedom Hill Coffee loves you too. At Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram, look them up and check them out, and tell them that Power of Man sent you. Now, I got to keep up with this young buck on the other side of the counter from me, so let me get one more big sip of this stuff. Man, there we go. All right, I am fueled. I am ready to rock and roll. All right, this gentleman has got quite a story. All right, fired and nearly broke at 63 and a millionaire by 69. Folks, do the math. This is an incredible story on its way to you. He is the author and creator of the One Page Wealth Compass. He's here to share that with you. We've got a free gift for you later, so stick around. Please welcome to the show, David Nassief. David, how you doing, brother?
Great, Rory. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be a guest here on your program today.
Thank you. I'm really happy to have you here. I tell you what, I'm going to get out of the way and let you just tell what I think is an absolutely incredible story coming. So, tell everybody a little bit about you and what brought you here.
Sure. Okay. Well, it all started when I was 63, and I just got fired after 18 years with the same company. I tell you, I would not wish that day on anyone. I did the math, and it was brutal. If we had drained all of our savings and all of our retirement, we would be broke by 65. When most people are sitting back and saying, okay, it's time to enjoy things, we would be crashing. I'm thinking, who is going to hire me at my age? But here's the worst part of it, Rory. It wasn't that. It was the drive home, thinking, how am I going to tell my wife, Mary? We'd been married for 30 years. She's a wonderful wife. I couldn't have asked for a better wife. Wonderful mother. She did not deserve the mess I just threw our family into. I felt like the biggest loser. So, anyways, after 2 months of dead end job searching, and my heart was not in it. I did not want to go back to the corporate world, but I had no other choice. I felt like I have to earn money or we will be broke. And the corporate world is my experience. Well, the other people I was interviewing with confirmed the fact with the company that fired me that I was of no value anymore. So, yeah, so I had an independent third parties verifying that I had no value. So, anyways, I'm thinking, what I decided to take a huge risk. I went to work as an independent sales agent on straight commission. No salary, no safety net, no benefits. Basically, it was all me. The first months were brutal. It was cold calls, constant rejection, rookie mistakes. I heard more no's than I think I ever heard in my life in just a couple month period of time. But the thing about it, Rory, is yeah, I got a lot of rejection. But I really believe, looking back on it, I can look back on it and understand this now, that was the resistance I needed to build the mental muscles I needed to push my way through this. After 10 months of grinding, I was suddenly making more money than my good paying six-figure corporate salary. And for a very brief moment, I felt like we made it. But then reality set in. We didn't make anything. I had wasted 40 years. I'd made good money over those 40 years for most of those years. And look what I had to show for it. Nothing. And if I just sit back and say, okay, we're making good money now, I'm fine. it would have been maybe 67 when I would have, been broke or whatever. So I had to do something different. And so I dug down deep. I read 21 books. I listened to 13 financial podcasts faithfully, read newsletters, blogs. I distilled everything I was learning down to one single piece of paper because I needed a set it and forget it approach. If I started watching Wall Street and doing all this analysis, I wouldn't have time to run my little company. And I needed that money to come in. So it needed to be a simple, easier program to implement. Anyways, after 6 years of implementing this, I hit something that I thought was impossible. From terrified of being broke to a seven-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. I now know, Rory, it is never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can pull that off starting as late as 63, anybody can with the right direction. And I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. I know it's true.
Wow, you unpacked so much just now, brother. As an older guy myself, I'm sitting here feeling that pain. Before I decided to make this move to do this full time, I experienced a lot of the same thing.
Okay.
I had owned my own business. I had been successful before. So it was like, we don't want a guy who's owned his own business. We don't want a guy your age. We don't want to, like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. No 30-year-old middle manager wanted me coming in under him.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was not going to happen. So, I mean, what you talk about is incredibly real.
Yeah.
When we
Oh,
get to
it
be a
was.
little bit older, we really are kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It can feel that way for
yeah.
sure.
Now you took that stuck and you said, okay, I'm going to take whatever job I can get because I've
Mhm.
got a 100% commission job. I'm going to take that. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to work hard at it. I'm going to put some food on the table. And while you're doing that, you're creating this other thing. Then is kind of the idea that I'm getting, right? Now, how long
Yes,
did it take you
exactly.
to create this other thing that you're getting ready to tell us about?
Probably, well, I probably had the core structure of it in about 6 months of research. But really, it got refined over the 6 year period. It kept getting tweaked, and as I read more, as I learned more, as I picked up more, and I kept taking out the good stuff and putting in the better and the best stuff. And so, after 6 years, I had it honed down to a fine-tuned machine that I really was working for me in a serious way. So it was an evolution, I guess you could say, over the period of time.
Interesting. Okay. So this thing that you're putting together, is this a business that you're building? Or, I mean, tell us about what
No,
this is that
no.
you're building.
Well, one thing I know how to do fairly good, I mean, I'm not bragging about this, but I'm just fairly good at is making good money. I mean, I do know how to do that, and I've made it for most of my life. I've had bad years like we all did, but for the vast majority of the part, I made well above the average income. But the thing I was terrible at, I mean, just terrible, was building wealth. There's a big difference between making money and building wealth. And I didn't really comprehend that. My ego told me, hey, I'm making good money. I know money. I don't need anyone to tell me about money. And I'd be going off on this investment and this shiny object and this hot tip. And it was just at the end of every year, I was either less than I started or no different. It seemed like it was just not, I just didn't get that piece of it. And so I says, I just can't keep doing this. My back was against the wall. I had such a short runway. It was more like a helicopter pad. It wasn't really even a runway. I didn't have any more time to make mistakes and waste. And so it's funny. I heard this story. I'll just share it with you briefly because it kind of gives the whole concept of the compass. Scientists at the Max Planck Institute did an experiment. And what they did is they placed people in the center of a dense German forest. And they told them to walk in a straight line to the edge. Now, these were confident and capable people, but when the clouds covered the sun, the GPS tracking was showing they were gradually starting to walk in circular motion. Some of them were actually ending up right about back where they began. And yet, each and every one of them was absolutely convinced the whole time they were walking in a perfectly straight line. Roy, that is my life story. For 40 years, I was making good money, working hard, thinking I was making the good decisions, but ultimately just ending up right back where I began, which was a terrible position. And I says, this is not going to work anymore. And that's when I says, I got to get a compass. Now, not a physical compass like we are used to, but a one-page compass that would direct me just like a physical compass would, but only in the financial area of my life. And it wasn't for anybody else. I had no intention of writing a book. I had no intention of, this was for me and my family. We were on survival mode. I needed to make it work. And it wasn't to market or even share with anybody actually in the beginning.
I love that. And I want to hear about this. I want to make sure that I'm getting this point out to everybody who's listening, though. There is a gigantic difference between building wealth and making money.
Yeah.
And I know what you're talking about. There may be people in our audience, though, that are sitting here going, okay, David, listen, if I have a lot of money, I'm wealthy. If I have wealth, I've got cash. What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mind just taking a minute and just digging into that piece of it a little bit? Like, what is the
Yeah.
difference between making money and, building wealth?
Well, let me give you a real example. I think explain it better than I could.
Great.
The NBA, the average NBA players make an average of over $10 million a year. Now, I didn't say $10 million in their career. I'm saying in 1 year, that's the average, okay? Yet, 60% of them, after 5 years of retirement, are broke, according to the Netflix documentary Broke. And the NFL is even worse. After only 2 years of retirement, 78% of them are either bankrupt or in serious financial stress. That's according to Sports Illustrated. Now, compare that to Dale Schroeder, a basketball loving carpenter who made below average income his entire life. Yet he chose to live below his means and invest the difference. He ended up with a $3 million portfolio. That is more than the most of the people in the NBA and the NFL with their $10 million salaries. That's the point. The basketball pros and the football pros, they know how to make more money than we may ever see in our lifetime, okay? But they don't, some of them, not all of them, actually, most of them don't know how to build wealth. This guy, Dale Schroeder, he was pretty bad at making money, okay? But he was very good at building wealth. And those are two separate situations that one does not influence the other. We've all heard stories about lottery winners and movie stars and sports figures who end up broke and they had millions of dollars because they didn't understand the piece about the building wealth piece. And that's a reality. And I was never making near the money the basketball pros were, but I was in that camp. I could make above average income. I just didn't have the skill that the carpenter had of building wealth.
Wow. Okay. So you've done that. I mean, you are kind of like proof of concept because at
Yeah.
63 you were broke and at
Yeah.
69 you're a millionaire. So
Yeah.
in six, short years, you're back on top. Um, tell us about it, man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would argue that I was worse than broke at 63 because nobody wanted to hire me. I had no
Right.
option to that. And I really the money we were going to be maybe, who knows what. I don't want to think what would have been at 65. It would have been a nightmare. But let me explain because a lot of people say, David, that's not even possible what you did. It's not the market doesn't even go up that much, in a 6 year period. So let me explain. I doubled my portfolio 3 times in the span of 6 years. And here's how I did it. First of all, I wasn't day trading, chasing crypto, or trying to time the market. I was actually doing the opposite of that. I was doing something so boring it would put you to sleep. I developed a plan to invest. And here's the crazy thing about it, Roy. When the market was down, I was thrilled. When other people were panicking and selling, I was buying more shares at discount prices. My only regret was the market wasn't down more during that 6 year period because I mean, I was getting amazing deals. But what it was is it wasn't so much the returns that was the real key of this whole thing, it was the math. And let me share with you. Some of your viewers may be familiar with something called the Rule of 72. What it is in simple terms is it tells you how quickly you will double your money mathematically. Say you're getting a 10% return on your money, which is not that's a stable return on the market over a long-term period. If you're getting 10% return on your money will double every 7.2 years or every 86 months. My first double after I developed my compass occurred in just 30 months. The second one, 13 months. The third one, 29 months. For an average of 24 months, way less than half the expected time to return the returns. But the secret wasn't the returns, it was 3 things I was doing. And this is something anybody can do. Number one, I was saving a good portion of my income. So I was making decent money and I carved out a big chunk of it for our future. Secondly, I was getting in the right investments. And the right investments, they had eluded me for decades. What I found out in my research, the right investments are the simplest things. They're called index funds. They're low-cost index funds. And I only own 2 of them. This is how simple my system is. It's so incredibly simple. I shouldn't say my system, it's just the way of doing it. Basically, basically, I own one fund that owns every publicly traded stock in the United States, every one of them, okay? I own another fund that owns every publicly traded stock outside the United States. So I literally own every publicly traded company on the planet. For me to go broke at this point, the entire global economy would have to completely collapse. Now, the problem that happened is I'm not too worried about it because if it does happen, we're going to have to be more concerned than money, I
Right.
promise. So, anyways, I feel very safe. This is not a high risk, oh, taking chances. It's the opposite of that. It's extremely safe. And the third thing I did is I used market volatility to work for me instead of against me. Too many people get
Hmm.
emotional and panic, and they buy high and they sell low, which is the exact opposite of what we want to do.
Right.
I got out of that cycle when I understood what was going on. And basically, the bottom line is I was able to build my wealth twice as fast. And here's the important part with half the risk compared to how so many people are doing it compared to how I was doing it for 40 years. It's not rocket science. It's actually super simple math, is what it is.
Now, do you outline this in the book,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
is there? Okay,
No, I go into great detail in the book. And it's not, here's why I wrote the book, right? Because it's important to understand this. A lot of people don't want technical financial, they're not financial geeks, the average person. They're trying to make a living, raise their
right.
family, and they don't want to watch Wall Street and look at charts. So what I did is I took a different approach than most of the other financial books is I wrote it all on stories, true ones of myself and people I know or know personally or know of very well, their successes and their failures. And when you hear it in real life and get the real story, then you tell them the principle or the technique. They go, "Oh, now that makes sense. I get it." Where if you just throw a bunch of facts and figures at people, it just kind of goes over their head and they don't even get it half the time. And so I've had people tell me about my book. They said, "David, you could take all the financial stuff out of it and just read the stories. They're so fascinating. But when you bring them together, it actually makes it a tool that you can use." And so that's how the book is designed. It's not designed for the financial geek at all. It's designed for the average person who doesn't really have a lot of time to invest in money and worry about all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. So it teaches concepts and has actionable steps. Is that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
what we're getting at this?
yeah. Let me just show you real quick. This is the
Sure.
actual. This is something I'm going to give to all your listeners at the end. This is the actual one-page compass, and it's two parts. One part is the 9 trail markers, and what this is for is it tells people people want to, where do I start first, David? Well, you look at the trail markers and see where you're at. For some people, oh, I'm in debt. That's trail marker number 3. That's where you're going to start. Or I don't make enough money. I'm underemployed. Okay, that's the trail marker number 1. You need to start there. Or I'm ready to invest. Whatever it is. And so they just go to where they're at in real life and they just work from there. Okay, and the other side is the 5 North Star principles. What this is, you know how sometimes you're on a path to do something right, and then you get these distractions or these, like I call them, shiny objects that get you off the track or whatever. Well, the principles help you when you're getting this hot tip from a friend or your brother-in-law or your neighbor. You go to the principles and go, wait a minute, that's not right. That's not what I, and then it pulls you back in to the path and keeps you on the path so you don't wander off. And here's the beauty of this thing. What happens is, say you're on the debt elimination and you go, but David, how do I get out of debt? I mean, what's the mechanics of the whole thing? It says right here, chapter 4. What you would do is you just go to the book here and you look in chapter 4. You don't have to read the whole book if you don't want it, and it gets right into the heart of what you need to be doing right now. And so it's kind of like this is like the ground game in terms of the map telling you turn to right and left. And this is a 30,000-foot view, so you can make sure you're going the right. When you combine the two of them, it's like laser focus. I mean, it's like and where I don't know how this came about. It was pure inspiration. I never saw anything like this in any other books, and it worked for me so well. I can say I know it was a gift, and it was a gift through inspiration because I couldn't figure this out. I really couldn't have.
Okay. I mean, I would never ask any author to give away the secret sauce of their book, on the
Well, this is
show.
it.
So
This is it. I'm
you're
giving
already
it
giving
away.
up the bones.
Yeah.
You're like, here's the skeleton of the whole
Yeah.
thing. So the which I appreciate. Now you mentioned that's going to be available. The overview, that's a free download for people. Is that how it's going to
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. All they have to do is go to onepagewealthcompass.com. The first thing they're going to see is get your free PDF download. And you will not only will get that, you'll get my newsletters, which will give you ongoing tips, encouragement, and specifics that help you on the path. And if you like this and if you say, hey, I want to go deeper, then you can just get the book. It's on Amazon. It's not expensive. I have a link to it. So we're not asking you to invest in anything. We're asking you to invest in yourself. I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said the best investment is knowledge. And I tell you, when I got the knowledge of how to do all this, I got a peace that came over me. I was no longer stressed and panicked about the market. I knew exactly. And when I watch those cable news people on the financial networks, I laugh at them. They make these predictions. They don't know what they're guessing like everybody else. I love Warren Buffett's quote. He says this, a forecast tells you a lot about the forecaster, but nothing about the market. And that is so true. It really is so true. Those guys, they got a 50-50 chance of being right and wrong, you know. So why do you listen to them? I only watch the shows because for entertainment purposes. I love hearing about companies and I love to laugh at their predictions, but I would never take advice from them, never take advice from them on investing. Their mission is to get viewers, and the more hype they can get, and the more excitement and the urgency and the fear they can soak up, the more viewers they get. And so they love crises. Their ratings go way up. That's not how you want to invest. You don't want to turn those shows on for entertainment. Fine, if you find it entertaining, but don't take advice from them. And I'm not being mean to them. I'm just they're doing their job. They're trying to get viewers. I guess I don't know.
Absolutely, I love that. I might steal that quote from Warren Buffett.
Oh
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
a good one.
Okay, now it sounds like the entire program is based in the stock market. Then is it all investing
No,
and buying and
no,
selling,
no,
or
no, no, no. It's not. That's only of all my. There's nine trail markers and there are five North Star principles. Okay, that's only three. Only three of those 15 items, or 14 items deal with 14 items deal with the investing and that kind of thing. Because this is a comprehensive approach. What I found out is if you are really messing up in one area of your life, like say you're in tons of consumer debt and all that kind of thing, you're not even treading water. You're starting to sink. Okay. If
right?
you don't get that piece figured out, you can forget about investing. That's not even gonna. Matter of fact, when people ask me, where do I start? I ask them, well, are you in any consumer debt? I say, well, I got a ton of credit card debt. Okay, that's where you start. Forget investing right now. Let's get that mountain off your back, that burden off your back first, and then you can focus all your cash flow in the right areas to build your money. Because when you're in debt, you're making money for other people, not yourself. I want to get you out of debt so then you can turn that around and start making income for yourself, not other people.
Okay. David, I got to ask you. All right, you're
Yeah,
sitting there at 63, like we said, you're worse than broke, right?
yeah,
Because you're not
really.
employable.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so
Verified by many people.
right there you go. So you're sitting in that spot. I mean, is this divine intervention or something? I mean, where does this come from? How do you come up with this, man?
Well, my faith was a big part of it. I will have to tell you this. I don't know if you've ever heard the quote, pray like everything depends on God, then get up and work like everything depends on you. That was my mission for 6 years. I was doing nothing but praying and working, praying and working, praying and working. And I know I couldn't have done it on my own. I had a peace about me. I had hope in me. I didn't know all the answers. I was just struggling to figure them out. But bit by bit, I kept figuring them out. I felt the Spirit guide me in so many ways, and not only in building my business, but in building my wealth too. But it took work. I mean, I had to put in the work. I heard something like, inspiration is based on good information. You know, and I think that's true. If you're not feeding your mind with good information, you know, the chances of getting the right inspiration, I think are much slimmer than if you feed your mind
Yeah.
with the good stuff. And so I was reading more than 21 books because I was reading books on how to start a business, how to get sales, how to market, that kind of thing. So it was like a lot of reading. That's the one thing. I'm a reader, and I think that helped a lot. But you know, that's kind of how I did it, I think.
Okay. So the book and the one page wealth compass. I mean, did this show up through trial and error? Is that kind of how you built this, or
No,
did you learn some things that you
yeah.
kind of put together yourself? What's the genesis of the
Thank
entire program?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. No, it was not trial and error because if I was in my 20s or maybe 30s or maybe 40s, I could have had a lot of room for trial and error. But like I say, I had a little runway. I like to call it more of a helicopter pad. I didn't have time to make these mistakes of trial and error. So how I balanced that out, how I made up for that is I read, I studied, I listened to podcasts, I found out other people's mistakes, I found out what made sense. And one thing I think I was guided in a lot of ways to the right books because once I got the right couple first few, it just led me to other books. And I really know that. Let me give you an example of what it taught me. There's a lot of financial gurus out there, big names, famous people. I'm not naming any names, but you would have all heard of different names. They tell you this. This is a simple thing that they say, okay, when you get out of debt, once you got out of debt, they get a 3 to 6 months emergency fund. Okay, so you can be safe, and I don't disagree with that. I really don't. I believe in it. I had a 9 month one when we got fired. I'm glad I did. But anyways, get that. Then after you get that 3 to 6 month emergency fund, then start investing. Now there's a problem with that, Roy, and here's the problem with that. How long do you think it's going to take the average person to get a 3 to 6 month emergency fund of their income? I mean,
Yeah.
a year would be a pretty aggressive, a year, 1 year. So
Yeah.
let's just say they're aggressively to 1 year. So they're out of the market for a year. Now, if they're 25 and they're out of the market for a year because they're following the guru's advice, when they get to be 65, I did the math. They would miss out on about a $500,000 of appreciation because of that little. Didn't it sound safe though? It sounds like, it's grandma's advice. Get your emergency fund first, then you're safe. That's grandma's advice. No, that grandma needs to tweak her advice here if that's her advice, because here's the deal. That costs that person a $500,000. I say this. This is what my compass says right here. Because I didn't. I says, I'm not going to. Some people are so dogmatic on their rules because they've been doing it for 40 years and that's the only way to do it. No, no, no. Let's look at the math here. Let's put our egos aside. Look at the math and see what the real deal is. So, what I did is when you're out of debt on my compass, the first thing you do is start building wealth and your emergency fund. You can do them at the same time. Here's why, Roy. Because you just got out of debt. You just freed up a bunch of cash flow that was going to make other people rich. Now you can turn it into make yourself rich. And so it might take you a little bit longer to get that emergency fund to 3 to 6 months, but you're not sitting on the sidelines for over a year with investing. You're getting that started. And the younger you are, the more powerful that compound interest has to work for you. And so that's just one example of many I show in the book where a lot of these gurus have been doing it for 40 years. Maybe 40 years ago it made sense. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense today. It just doesn't. And it's not common. It's not people are doing it the wrong way. Little things
Yeah.
like that.
When I first when you and I first started talking, about you coming on the podcast, and I started looking into what it was you did.
Mhm.
One of the things that grabbed me right off the bat was your age,
Yeah.
because as an older guy, you kind of deal with this scenario that I'm getting ready to hit you with here.
Okay.
If you're 25, even though you lose $500,000, if you wait a year, you do still have a little bit of time. At least that's how you
Yeah.
feel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can
Exactly.
still do this and this, and chances are, by and large, average out, it's going to work, in some
Yeah.
way. When you're, older, like we are, well, most of us feel like either we don't have time to get this done because we waited too long, or we feel like even if we started today, we're not going to have a big enough impact by the time we hit those ages, to even do anything with it. So it's almost like a why bother because we feel like we've missed the boat. Now, you did it
Yeah. Right.
clearly,
Right.
so that isn't the case. But what do you say to people who feel that way, right?
Yeah.
And is this program conducive to somebody who's starting really late?
Yes, I'm not going to say everyone's going to do it the way I did. I'm not going to say everyone's going to as short as I did, but I'm going to say can do it and improve their life significantly. I don't mean a little bit, I mean significantly. And maybe for some people that's a $500,000 retirement plan. Maybe for other people it's a $10 million retirement plan. But you know what? It's better than no plan like I had for 40 years and being on the
Right.
edge of disaster. But what I would say to people who feel that way is this. This compass concept works in other areas of your life. Let me give you an example. When I was building my business, I didn't tell you this piece, which makes it even worse, the story.
There's more. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
When I was
Okay.
in my 40s, Roy, I failed twice at starting a business. One plunged me into serious six-figure debt that took me years and years to get out of. And so I had scars emotionally. I mean, I just thought, okay, I'm not the start your own business type, and that's the way it is, and I can live with that, and I guess that's me. But when no one was going to hire me and I had no other choice and my back was against the wall, I says, okay, whether I am or not, I'm going to do this. But here's the thing I knew, Roy. I was smarter this time, my third time around, because I knew the mistakes I made in my 40s, starting my own business. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it again. I know I failed twice, but I'm doing it more intelligently this time. And here is the four things that I learned from that. And then as I studied and grew, and you know what I did with all that stuff? I started another one-page compass, but it was for one-page sales compass or my agency compass. And I put all the good ideas I read about, all the past mistakes I made that I learned from, and I put it on one piece of paper. And that guided me. And I'm telling you, I know, Rory, that boosted my income. I told you in the 10th month, I was making as much money as my six-figure corporate salary. It was low six figures, but it was six, okay, be honest. And by my second year, I was making double that. By my third year, I was making triple that. My last portfolio double was a seven-figure double, most of it now from the market, not from my contributions. So what I'm saying is it's kind of like a flywheel. And if people will take this compass, you can use this as a template or inspiration for other areas of your life. And if it's your income area, I'm not saying you're going to make $500,000. But you know what? If you give yourself a 1.5x increase in pay, that's going to change people's lives. A 50% boost in pay or double their pay. Okay. Maybe they won't triple or quadruple it, but whatever it is, improve your pay. And you can do the same method like that. And when you combine the wealth building with the income growing and you put them together, things start happening a lot faster. And when my doubles started to get to be seven figures, it stopped feeling like catching up, Rory, and it started feeling like real freedom to me, anyways. Uh-oh, I've lost you.
There we go.
Oh,
All
okay,
right.
something happened. I don't know. Okay, I thought.
That's because it's my 11th interview of the day. Sorry about
No
that.
problem.
All right, brother. Anyway, so I know the book provides actionable steps. We
Yeah.
talked about that. The roadmap for it is it one size fits all on the roadmap, or is the roadmap designed to sort of be a little malleable depending on
Yeah.
who it is and what you're starting with?
I think I call them the trail markers. Okay, roadmap
Mhm.
is another way to say it. They are pretty firm. They're like trail markers so you can see the next step. But how you get there is very customizable. And that's where the book comes in. Because when you read the stories of other people, you're going to see there's not one way to do this. One thing I want to tell your people right now and everybody, you don't have to start your own business. There are a lot of people who that's just not in their DNA. And that's okay. You can do it with a job. You can do it with a working for a nonprofit, working for the government, working for, a big company, little company, mom and pop company. It's not about who you work for or how you earn the money. It's really about how you use that money, like the carpenter did, or like so many other people did that made modest incomes that built their wealth fast. The more time you have, the less the income is really that super critical. The shorter time you have, the more you want to focus on both income and wealth building together.
Nice. As you were putting this together, and as you're putting it into practice, and becoming proof of concept yourself, so
Yeah.
to speak, was there anything? I mean, at the beginning of this, I'm sure you had an idea of like this is what this will look like, and then at the end, I'm guessing it didn't look exactly like that, but you were happy with the results, right?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even call it a compass to begin with. I just took a piece of paper as a Word document actually, and I just started putting things on it as I read a book and as I learned things. And all of a sudden I says, this is turning into something more than just my notes here. This is actually a good action thing. And so then I started saying to myself, what I'm going to do? I'm going to print this out and once a week for just 2 minutes, I'm going to review it. And boy, that really was a game changer.
Hmm.
Because have you ever read a book, right? And then you got a really good idea from the book. You said, "Boy, I'm going to use that idea." And then 2 years later, you go, "Wait a minute, I just came across the idea. I was going to use that. What happened to me?" Well, because that happens to all of us. And I said, my book will be no different if I just write a book. So that's why it's a 2 minute review every week. And when you review it, you can't just skip these. You're going to see, wait a minute. I said I was going to get out of debt, and I haven't made one payment yet, and I'm on step three. And after 2 or 3 weeks of looking at that, you're going to say, I got to start doing something. Whereas if you had nothing to review, 6 years later, you'd say, well, I'm in worse debt than I was when I started this thing. So it's that 2 minute review that really is the behavioral change. It's just that little nudge to keep you going forward, keep you getting off track. And that gives you that laser focus. And that's where I think it's a big game changer for a lot of people. Because most people, when they're done reading a book, they're done reading a book. But when you got this thing, and it's only 2 minutes a week, it's not like an hour you sit down and read it. 2 minutes. Who doesn't have 2 minutes? I put it on my calendar every Friday at 4 o'clock, and it's there. I know it's there, and it's my little habit I do that it's working out wonderful. I still do it to this day. Still do it to this day.
Nice. Is there a certain amount that you have to have in order to start, or some sort of setup, or any kind of reserve, or anything like that? Is there a barrier to entry to start this
No.
program if that's what you want to do?
That's the wonderful thing about it. Like I say, once you get out of debt, which is my suggestion for everyone for the first step, first way to do it, then there are so many different investment things. My son has, well, I forget what it's called, some investment deal. I'm like E-Trade and Fidelity and things. I'm with the bigger guys, but he uses a little one, and he can put in like $1 if he wants. He could put a $10. He can just put in whatever he wants. I could do that too, technically, but I put a lot more than that. But I'm just saying, today with the technology and with all the devices out there, you can start with a dollar. If you got $1, you can actually open an account and buy $1 worth of security. And it's that simple. And there's no barrier to entry, zero. There might have been 20 years ago. There really might have been, but not today. It's so simple.
Nice. All right. And like I said, I would never ask you to give away the secret sauce of the entire thing. But is there anything that you can tell folks that may give them a better idea of what to expect when they start looking this up and they start thinking about, hey, maybe this is worth taking a look at. Maybe I should pick this book up.
Yeah, let me give you an example of what I think is one of the biggest mistakes people make,
Okay.
and it's really sad, and it's so common. It's so common. People are paying tiny termite-sized fees that quietly inflict termite-like destruction on their portfolios. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, Roy. Two people, A and B, both say 25, both starting their careers out. They're going to work to 65. Person A, they both decide to put $1,000 a month away for future retirement and investments. Okay. Person A chooses, as I mentioned earlier, a low cost index fund with a 0.03% management fee, annual management fee. Person B goes with the standard advisor who charges a full percent, which is common, which is normal, and they put him in an active fund, which charges a 5.75 upfront load and a 0.66% ongoing management fee, which is common. This is not like, oh, I'm exception thing. Okay.
Okay.
Now, 40 years, let's fast forward 40 years. Assuming historical market returns and equal contributions, person A has a portfolio of $8.5 million. Person B has a portfolio of $4.2 million. Same contributions, same market returns. The only difference is the fees. And those fees created a $4.3 million gap. And here's the thing about Hawaii. We're
Wow.
assuming they never got a raise. If we factored in normal raises, that gap would be even bigger. But here's the tragedy of the whole thing. Person B probably feels like, oh, I got excellent service from my advisor. He's a really nice guy, and we went golfing one time, and he remembers my birthday and all that kind of good stuff. But what he didn't realize is he did the equivalent of funding someone else's retirement with half of his own. I am not against ethical and moral advisors. What I am against are products that enrich Wall Street at the expense of clients' portfolios. And I'm embarrassed to say, I'm going to say it right now. I'm embarrassed to say, for 40 years, I never questioned fees. I thought those were the rules of the game. That's just how it was played. I later understood with my compass that the rules we don't question can cost us the most. In person B's case, it cost him $4.3 million
Hmm.
quietly, little by little, month by month, year by year, decade by decade. That I think is one of the biggest mistakes people made, and that's exposed in my book. I mean, and that's one thing you don't want to do.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of attrition can just destroy everything
Oh,
you're trying to build.
it really can. Yeah.
Yikes. Okay. All right. What do I not know about this book as we start thinking about, wrapping this up? What do I not know? What do my listeners not know that you want to make sure they know today?
Well, let me tell you, because it's pretty important. I call it the three C's. There's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of noise out there, and it's conflicting advice and conflicting things. And what I found when I was doing this book, I'm not doing the book, my 6 year period, then I put it in the book, is these conflicts are very expensive, and people don't even realize they're happening. Here's the three C's. One is the conflict of interest. This is when someone's paycheck significantly impacts the advice they give you. For example, a realtor wants to close a deal, they create fear of missing out and make their $15,000 commission check, even though it may not be the right house. Or the student loan advisor whose only purpose for existence is to get you into student loan debt, and it takes you decades to pay it. I talk in my book, people in their 80s, Rory, are still paying off student loan debt, and now the government is taking money out of their Social Security check to pay for the student loan. These are 18-year-old decisions that when they were 18 years old, and they're just doing crazy. The second thing is conflict of information gap. And let me give you a non-financial example just so you can understand. This is beyond money, just money. When I was 55, I went to the doctors for my annual physical, did a blood test, and he said to me, David, your cholesterol is 235. That's sky high. You could get a stroke. He says, we need to get you on statins like now. I said, okay, but let me do a little research. He goes, no, let me explain. Then he told me a story about his father and how he died of a stroke because of high cholesterol. They only had statins back then, and he was almost crying in his office. I said, okay, that's very emotional, but I got to do my research. Well, he wasn't happy with me, but I left and did the research. I found out, Roy, that lifestyle and how you eat and how you work out has got a big impact. I did a 180-degree turn in how I ate and how I worked out. I went back 90 days later, had another blood test taken. My cholesterol went from 235, which is terrible, to 175. Anything under 200 is really good, okay? 175. I was so excited for it. I wanted to tell the doctor what happened, and he didn't want to hear it. He says you should have went on statins. He says this is some kind of a game you're playing. This is too serious. Well, let me tell you, I'm 72 now, Roy. You know what my cholesterol is now? 165. So that was some kind of fad. It's lasted a long time. I'm not saying the doctor was a crook. I'm saying he was educated in the medical profession, and their only solution seemed to be drugs or a scalpel. And I'm not saying that's all he was trained. That's all I know. But if you gave your life over to him, and if I did that, Glory, and didn't have my own, then what would happen? I would be like probably on several drugs because I'd have side effects from the statins, and then I'd be going. So I'm saying that's the second C. My third C and the
Okay.
final C is conflict of responsibility. I knew a guy, decent person. He was in investments, and he got so excited about this one investment deal. It was great returns, a guarantee type thing. He got some people in his church involved in it. They were all excited. But this is what I call a conflict of responsibility. The people in his church assumed he did the research. He assumed the guy offering the deal did the research, and nobody did the research. Everybody lost big money, and everybody lost friendships. I'm telling you this, Roy. A person's paycheck is a powerful manipulator of truth.
Hmm.
When you got a commission check on the line, it's really easy to rationalize and to fudge things or just to kind of, whatever. There is nobody that cares more about our wealth, your listeners' wealth, my wealth, your wealth, than you. I mean, than us, the individual. Nobody cares
Right.
more about it than you. And if
For
we
sure.
don't take charge and get in the driver's seat and get some basic knowledge, we're going to run into these things and we're going to wonder what happened to our life. Why I was planning on such a great situation and all these things that I followed good people. They had a lot of initials after their name and they were really good people. And it just didn't work out. Well, there's a reason it didn't work out. And that's what I call the three C's.
Nice. I appreciate you sharing that. That's it's very powerful information. You've given a lot of really good advice. I got one more question for you, okay? But
Sure.
before we do that, give everybody kind of an idea of how to get a hold of you, how to get a hold of this stuff.
Yep.
We're going to have a free link, I think, hook up,
Yep.
right?
Yep. I'll give it to you for your show notes. Basically, just go to onepagewealthcompass.com. Like the first thing you'll see is the free download for the PDF. There's other stuff on there. It's all free, blogs and stuff like that, information. But that's what you want the PDF. Get that. If you like it, what you see, then go ahead and get the book on Amazon. It's very inexpensive. And now you've got a powerful team here of the 30,000 foot view and the ground game. And when you put those together, man, look out. You'll see some real success. And it's going to be different levels for different people. That's okay. You'll improve significantly from wherever you're at now. And that's the most important thing. Onepagewealthcompass.com. That's where I would
Wonderful.
go.
All right, we'll make sure that's in the show notes too. Okay, David, is there anything that I didn't ask you about this? Is there anything we talked about you want to double down on, or maybe you have sort of one last nugget or piece of advice for the guys who are listening right now, who are maybe a little more intrigued than they want to admit by everything you're doing?
Sure. I guess I'd just like to leave everybody with this thought here. Clear direction beats misdirected speed every time. For 40 years, I had a lot of speed, but the problem is I was spinning my wheels. I was making good money, I was spending lots of money, and everything was going fast, and all kind of thing. But when I got clear direction, it was just amazing. I didn't spin my wheels anymore. When you stop spinning your wheels, it's amazing how much speed you pick up. Not even trying to get fast, you just do because you're the clear direction. You don't go off on these tangents. And that's what drains energy, that's what drains money, and that's why I believe clear direction beats misdirection speed every time. And that's the whole purpose of my compass in my book.
Great wrap up. Absolutely great wrap up. All right. The One Page Wealth Compass, folks, with David Nassief. David, thank you for being here today, for sharing your story, for sharing all this stuff. And I hope that all these guys go check it out and give themselves a second chance at their second chance.
Thank you. It was a pure joy being here with you and your listeners. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Appreciate you. Folks, it's been another incredible episode of the Power Man podcast. And the reason we bring these powerful guests on here with this powerful information for all of you gentlemen who are out there listening is because we are united in hoping that you can find your power so that you can become a better protector, a better provider, a better leader tomorrow than you are today, so that you can become a better father, a better husband, a better man tomorrow than you are today. And the reason that we want that for you is because you matter. It's because you have value and you're worth it. And folks, at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.